Hello.
Hi. Can you hear?
Hi. Who's that?
I can't see myself, but can you see me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Oh, right. I can see you. So what do I share screen?
That's the main thing. Welcome anyway.
Hi,
Hello.
Alan. And are you Louise? Oh,
So I'm Amy.
Amy.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi. It's not such a lovely evening. Your sunset talks, I thought they were both really brilliant. But one of them I managed to watch from the top of Arnside Knot, watching the sun going down behind me, and the other one from Arnside Prom. So I was actually watching birds on the bay while I was listening to your talk.
Wow, that sounds incredible. I wish I could have done it from up there.
But tonight it's pretty grim out there.
I can usually see the Hoad Hill Monument from my window, but tonight it's just covered in cloud, so it's not the nicest one.
Really dark and grim here, but I really enjoyed the different approach you did, how kind of looking at it by the habits and things that
to last night's one.
Yeah, how the contrast between that and the other one, that it kind of consolidated it but in a different way. And I was down at Leighton Moss this afternoon for the first time in a long time and was trying to remember all the things you'd said, but I've still got such a lot to learn.
It is, and it's just practice. It just takes time, I think, getting used to them, getting to know them. I like to think of it as.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, the different habits and things that it's kind of, well, certainly I don't know if it's my age, but it's kind of hard to keep it all in together unless you're seeing them each day and doing it. If you have a long gap, it's like the flowers. I have to kind of feel I have to relearn them each spring now.
I know that is the problem, that they all disappear, and then but you can do flowers in the spring and then birds in the winter.
Well, I'll try. But we saw lots of lapwing. Just seen lots of lapwing at Leighton Moss today. I should take what they were at first. Yeah, and a kingfisher flew past. I know that's not a wildfowl or wader, but I actually missed seeing it. But everyone else was excited by it.
I've not seen a kingfisher in ages. I've not been out very much, so I'll have to head down to Leighton Moss or something at the weekend, I think.
But it's just lovely the way that you talk about it, like it's every day, in a sort of language we can all understand, yet the things are so distinctive and really help. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
No problem. I think waders and wildfowl can be quite sort of intimidating if you're not used to looking at them. And they're sort of a big favourite with the hardcore birders, I think, because they're a bit more tricky and a bit more unusual. So it can be easy to get scared off by them, but they're all, once you get to know them, they're not too difficult to tell apart.
Well, I don't have very good binoculars either, so that perhaps doesn't help. I know when other people have lent me theirs or I've looked through a borrowed telescope, I can see the it does make it a lot easier, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, you have to treat yourself at some point to some.
I'd love to, but yeah, other priorities. Anyway, sorry, I didn't want to hog the time.
No problem. It's lovely to hear some nice feedback.
I think they've been brilliant sessions. I've really enjoyed them. Thank you.
We've enjoyed doing them as well. It's doing something. I just feel a bit more like we're doing our usual sort of work, in light of all the current circumstances. So it's been nice to connect with so many different people.
But for us, it's also nice to have someone so young like you who's so enthusiastic. Because here in Arnside, we've got a very sort of knowledgeable natural history society and things, for instance. But a lot of people have had a lot of years' experience, and it's really nice to hear it from someone young for a change.
Well, I don't pretend to be an expert at all, but definitely an enthusiast.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. So what I don't know what format tonight's going to take.
So that's a good segue into what I was about to start talking about. So hopefully you're all here because you're interested in becoming Natural Ambassador volunteers. So volunteers to help protect the birds of Morecambe Bay through public engagement, so going out and talking to people on the shore and showing them the birds and sharing these messages that I've mentioned in my other talks about how damaging disturbance can be to the flocks of birds, and how by giving them a bit of extra space, we can give them a much better chance of surviving through the winter time. If you've not been at the other talks, don't worry, I'm going to go through it all. I've got a short presentation to show you all, so I'll start screen sharing in a moment. And when I do that, if you just turn your microphones off, and then at the end we can take any questions, and I'll tell you about the next steps of how to get involved. How does that sound? Good? Thumbs up? Excellent. Fantastic. Cool. Well, I'll make a start then, if everyone's here. I know there's a couple of people who are going to watch the recording afterwards, so just double check that I am recording it, so there's something for them to watch. Okay.
Is there a chance to see last night's again?
Yeah. So we share them on our YouTube channel. I've not quite got around to doing it just yet. But sometime in the next couple of days, it'll be up on there. So I don't know if you follow us on Facebook.
I can do. Yeah, thanks very much. So there'll be a link on there to a YouTube channel, yeah?
Yeah, I can do. Or if it's easier, you can just drop me an email. My email address is at the end of the presentation, and I'll just send you a message to say when I've put it up and a link for you to get onto it.
That's great. Thanks very much, Amy.
Okay. So for you, those who haven't seen me in my previous talks, my name's Amy Hopley. I'm the Nature and Wildlife Officer for Morecambe Bay Partnership. And I manage all the, I manage everything we do to do with birds and disturbance, but I also run a volunteering project called Natural Ambassadors. And the Natural Ambassadors are a team of volunteers who go out and engage with the general public and show them how amazing the birds of Morecambe Bay are, and try and get people to give them a bit of extra space so they can survive through the winter time. And hopefully increase in numbers and remain as special as they are for Morecambe Bay. So just an overview of the talk. It's a bit of a different format from previous talks, but basically I'll talk a bit about birds and disturbance, and then a little bit about the project aims, talk about what our Natural Ambassador volunteers do and why they're such a valuable addition to the protection of birds around Morecambe Bay. I'll outline some of the key sites that we go to, and then just a couple of health and safety tips before I tell you how you can get involved if it all sounds like something you'd like to be involved with. So obviously Morecambe Bay is a great place for birds. We get a wide variety of birds all around the coast, and it's home to a really vast range of wildlife. So we do have a huge range of birds, but again, as I said in my previous talk, the main ones that we're talking about when we're talking about the birds of the bay are the overwintering waders and wildfowl. And these waders and wildfowl are the reasons that we have so many international and national designations. So things, all these letters that you hear about, like SSSI, SPA, SAC, these are all in place to try and protect the habitats and species that we get in Morecambe Bay that make it so special. And it is really special. We get about 210,000 birds. That's almost 250,000 birds coming to spend the winter here on Morecambe Bay. And this number is made up of over 50 species of ducks, geese, plover, sandpiper, and many of these are also red listed in the UK. So we can talk about Morecambe Bay as an important stronghold for many endangered birds. So why is it that it's so important? Well, here's Morecambe Bay on the map, just to zoom in a little bit. So we're covering this whole area all the way from Fleetwood in the south up to sort of Flickborough and Greenodd in the north, and then right the way over as well to Walney Island in the west, sorry. Once the tide goes out, there's a huge amount of room for birds to come and feed on. It's about 120 square miles. And all of this mud and salt marsh and intertidal area is full of food for all these birds to come to. But the problem is that it doesn't always look like this. And when the tide is in, there's not as much space for the birds to go to. The wading birds in particular are really vulnerable at this point. They don't really swim, so they have to find somewhere where they can keep their feet dry but also where they're in view of the water. So what you get is massive groups of birds clustered together in one spot, looking a little bit like this. So there are benefits to being massed in such huge numbers. They probably keep a little bit warmer than they would if they weren't all clustered together. And also you've got safety in numbers. So when a predator comes along, it's less likely to eat you if you're in a group rather than when you're on your own. But the problem is when they're all clustered together like this, is that they will all take flight all of a sudden and waste a lot of valuable energy to avoid the cause of the disturbance, and while they're looking for somewhere else to land. And when you're seeing things in this number of individuals, there might not be anywhere where they can all land. So they do waste a lot of time flying around and wasting energy, when really what they should be doing is snoozing peacefully on the coast. So basically, this is what we mean when we say disturbance. It's the effect of any activity that can potentially influence a bird's behaviour or survival. So the birds of Morecambe Bay are extremely sensitive to disturbance, and it can be literally anything. It could be a peregrine hunting close to a roost, that's natural disturbance, or it could be anthropogenic disturbance, which is disturbance caused by humans, such as a kayaker taking a break on the shore or a dog wanting to play and chase the birds. Now, the birds are capable of dealing with disturbance in small amounts, and they've evolved to be able to escape a passing peregrine or avoid the occasional hungry fox. But the amount of sustained disturbance that the birds face on a daily basis is massively affecting their ability to survive. And with our increasing population, and particularly how many people are now accessing the coast following the COVID-related lockdown, this disturbance is only going to continue to increase as time goes on. So why is it a problem? Well, the main problem is that it causes a change in behaviour. Birds go from feeding, where they're building up their energy stores, or resting, where they're conserving their energy, to doing much more energy expensive behaviours, such as being alert, walking or swimming, or the worst case scenario, taking flight. Flight is the worst case scenario because it uses many times more energy than standing still or walking. It uses about 12 times more energy. And the other thing is that once a bird takes flight, it's eaten into its vital energy stores that it might have taken all day to build up. The second effect of disturbance is that it causes habitat loss. If a roost site is disturbed too many times, the birds may completely abandon it. And once the birds are gone, it might take years for them to return, even if disturbance at the site stops altogether. So they lose one of the key places where they can stop and rest when the tide's in. And then the final and most difficult to detect effect of disturbance is stress. So even after a bird has landed and it looks calm again, it may still be experiencing stress, which is an increased heart and metabolic rate after a threat. So I always say to people that you imagine if someone comes along and suddenly makes you jump, you don't recover immediately, but you continue to feel the effects of shock for a little while afterwards. And this stress for birds that are hungry, cold, or exhausted from migrating thousands of miles is going to have a huge impact on its energy reserves. So a stressed bird might not immediately, also a stressed bird won't immediately begin to feed again. So it misses that important time that it should be spending replenishing its energy reserves. So I've just got a couple of little clips to show you what it looks like when disturbance happens, although I'm sure you all have seen it before. These are brent geese, and you can see the sort of milling around, making these lovely calm little squawking sounds. Very relaxed. But then next what happens is a kayaker comes along. That's the same video. A kayaker comes along and you can see them, they've gone completely quiet now as they start to respond to the disturbance. And they're also quite speedily walking away and getting out of the water to try and escape. And then finally what happens is the birds all take flight and fly away. So not only are they using a lot of energy to escape from the threat, which was a kayaker in this incident, but also they're going to have to spend a lot of time now flying around looking for another suitable place for them to rest or feed. while they're trying to escape from the disturbance that happened here. So basically, disturbance is bad, but we have a way to try and reduce disturbance, and that is through our Natural Ambassadors project. What the Natural Ambassadors, we found that people respond best to people, and the best way to get disturbance messages out there is by talking to visitors in a face-to-face situation. So Natural Ambassadors raise awareness of overwintering birds by engaging with people at the roost sites, which involves talking to them face to face. So basically walking, talking and smiling information points. We have conversations, show people the birds through telescopes and share facts about the birds and how disturbance affects them. And this persuades people to act differently. It's a really fun, rewarding and interactive way to spend an hour or two at the coast, and especially if you love to share your interest and passion for wildlife. So what do Natural Ambassadors do? Raise awareness by sharing your passion, interest and appreciation. Give information on how we can take better care of our birds, so suggesting things like giving the birds a bit of an extra space, pop your dog on a lead whilst there's wildlife around. And we also do surveys on how many birds are in the area or at the roost site. This is because it's not always busy with people when you're out on the coast in the wintertime, so it's something extra that you can do, and also gives us a good idea of the health of the roost sites as well, so it's an important part of the volunteering activity. What Natural Ambassadors don't do is wardening or enforcement. Obviously, we're not expecting volunteers to go and tell people off for disturbing the birds or actively stop people from getting too close to a roost. It's purely about positive engagement and inspiring people to take care of the wildlife on their doorstep. So here are some of the key messages. As I say, around 250,000 birds spend the winter in Morecambe Bay. This includes over half of the red-listed wading bird species in the UK, making it an essential stronghold for the survival of the birds. 12 bird species present in internationally important numbers, which means we hold a significant proportion of the world population of these species here in Morecambe Bay. Second most important site in the UK for wintering birds. The first is the Wash, and then the third, sometimes Morecambe Bay and the Ribble Estuary sort of switch places for second and third place, so it's safe to say the top three. Birds form tightly packed roosts at high tide with the aim of saving energy and avoiding predation, so that's why we get so many people there, so many birds at the site. Birds use 12 times more energy in flight, so, oh sorry, just a moment. So we want to minimise the amount of flight that they take. We want them to be resting or feeding most of the time in order to reduce the amount of energy that they're wasting throughout the season. And also the increased flight time means that they need to eat more food, which can be difficult if it's dark. A lot of the birds don't feed during nighttime hours. And it also might be difficult when it's cold because the ground's harder and more difficult to break when they're searching for worms. So everyone can help. Some key things that you can ask people to do is keep to the footpaths. Birds are less likely to react to people on footpaths. They've basically become habituated to how people and dogs act when they're walking on them and don't perceive them as a threat. However, when you leave the footpath, you're less predictable to the birds and they're more likely to have a bigger reaction, taking flight or abandoning the area. Keep dogs on leads around wildlife. Obviously dogs love to chase things, but to a bird, a playful dog looks like a hungry fox that is a life or death situation. So keeping dogs on leads reduces the impact on birds and takes the temptation to chase away from our four-legged friends. Keep an eye out for the birds. Lots of the birds are quite camouflaged, but you can also use your ears to look out for them. So listen for them making high-pitched sounds. And if you do hear a bird which sounds distressed, move a little bit higher up the shore or go around any birds that you do see. Avoid walking on the shore 2 hours either side of high tide. This is a really great thing that we can ask people to do because it stops people from disturbing the birds altogether, and it means the birds can have the high tide, the shore on the high tide all to themselves. And finally, share the love. So the more you talk about birds and the more you're passionate about them, the more other people will listen to you and form an interest in the birds themselves, and then they're more likely to try and protect them by their behaviour. So what we're looking for in our natural ambassadors, friendliness is very important. People like to talk to people with a big smile on the face, and the more friendly and approachable you are, the more people we're going to be able to talk to. Be happy spending time outdoors. It's not always perfect weather in Morecambe Bay, as I'm sure you all know. It gets a bit windy and cold, so I definitely recommend bringing a flask and a woolly hat and some gloves a lot of the time. But if the weather's really poor, then we won't go out. But as long as you're happy being outdoors, then it's it might be a good fit for you. Having some knowledge of common coastal birds is a bonus, but if you don't know very much, not to worry. You don't go out on your own. You'll either go out with me or some of our experienced volunteers. So it's very easy to pick up what other people are pointing out as well. If you've got a dog you'd like to bring with you on a lead, that's absolutely fine. We find it's easier to engage with other dog walkers if you have a dog yourself, and it makes the conversations a bit friendlier when we're talking about putting dogs on leads as well. So here are just a few sites around Morecambe Bay. I'm not sure where everyone is from this evening, but there's a few different places where we tend to go. So these places have been assigned based on a study that we completed to see where the main roost sites are around Morecambe Bay. And out of these, just because of where our volunteers are, we mostly do sessions around Morecambe, so Sunny Slopes and Bear Pools are really good places. And then we also do a few sort of further down south, such as Plover's Scar, Potts Corner, and Half Moon Bay. But we'd also like to expand our range over to the Barrow area as well. So if you're from anywhere around Morecambe Bay, then we'd definitely like to have you on the team, and we'll figure out where's the best place for you to help with the sessions. So obviously, there's a few things to do with being safe. We want you to be safe when you're volunteering with us. So dressing up warm, as I mentioned. Even if it looks like a nice day, you're going to be standing still a lot of the time, looking through a telescope. So take lots of layers and bring a flask if you can, is a great tactic to do. When you're talking to the public, obviously now we have new guidelines that we need to maintain 2 meters in between yourself and the person you're talking to. We will be outside, so risk of transmission is not huge, but obviously we want to keep our distances. If you feel it's necessary, then do wear a mask. You don't have to. As I say, we're working outside, but it might make people feel more comfortable talking to you as well if you have a mask on, which would have been a crazy thing to say a couple of last year, now I think about it. Obviously, don't engage with anyone you feel uncomfortable talking to. We're only here to sort of share positive information and share our passion for birds, so you don't have to have negative conversations. We're not expecting you to approach anyone who's chasing the birds around and have an argument with them. Just keep it positive and keep it light, and if you feel uncomfortable, then just walk away. And also use your common sense. So there's various things on the shore that might cause problems, but as long as you're staying safe and keeping a good eye on your surroundings, you should be absolutely fine. And as I say, you won't be going out on your own, you'll be going out with me or some of our experienced volunteers. So to sum up, Morecambe Bay is fantastic for birds. And the reason that it's fantastic is because we have incredible muddy intertidal habitat, which is absolutely filled with food for these globe-trotting birds. As I say, they fly thousands of miles to get here. but it is difficult for them to refuel and rest throughout the winter time. So we need to minimize the amount of time they spend flying. Together, we can all change our behavior in order to help the birds survive. It's only going to work if everyone plays a part. So we want everyone to try and be a bit more aware of the birds and give them a little bit of extra space so that they can survive. So if that sounds like something you would be interested in taking part in, then the next thing you need to do is drop me an email and say that you'd like to be involved. And I will send you back a registration form that you fill in, and then you send that back to me. And then I'll send you some dates which you can come along and take part in some natural ambassador sessions. I'll be there to train you on site with the natural ambassador sessions, and you can get a bit more of a better feel of how they all work and how some of the conversations might go. So hopefully that makes sense. And if you've got any questions, now's the time to give us a shout, and I'm happy to answer any that you have.
Hi, Amy.
Hello, who's that?
I'm Gillian. Hi. So do you go out every day? Does somebody go out every day?
So no, we're not. It's not every day because Morecambe Bay is so big, and we have such a. Obviously, you can't see the birds when the tide's out. We only go out at high tide, and at high tide is when they're most vulnerable anyway. So we go to the sort of high tide roost sites, stick a telescope up, and then show people the birds.
Okay.
So what will happen is, if you'd like to be involved, I'll send you a list of dates, and they're based on the days where the tide is high during daylight hours. So it's not, unfortunately, we can't control the tide, and it can't be a regular day every month, but there'll be lots of opportunities on suitable days to get out and be involved. So it's just we send like monthly timetables of when's a good time, and then you can just get back to me with whenever works for you.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
No problem.
Amy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm down as Louise, by the way. We share, my partner and I share an email address, but my name's Barry. What sort of commitment would make it worthwhile? I actually work at Leighton Moss every Thursday, and I go to the gym 2 days a week. Now, I'm quite happy to do this, but I don't want to waste your time if I'm not able to turn up enough times.
Yeah, so we've previously said as long as you can make 2 sessions a month, then it's worthwhile. But I mean, some of our volunteers can only make it once every couple of months. So it's basically whenever you want to and whenever you can fit in.
I think probably then I'll probably be able to make a couple of times a month. It's just a case of the time. It's fitting other commitments in, you know, and I don't.
It's difficult.
Yeah, a couple of times a month, I think I'll be able to manage that quite easily. Yeah, well, with a bit of planning.
Yeah. So we aim to send out a schedule once a month, and then from that, a month is usually enough time for people to figure out when they're available. But yeah, you can always, if it's easier for you, you can always say when you're available in advance, and then we can fit that to our schedule. Well,
I need to look at the tide timetable and see where you're going anyway. But I live on Oxcliffe Road, so I'm only about 5 minutes away from the prom anyway. So
fantastic, excellent. So you'll be well familiar with the roosts on the prom.
On the prom, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, whatever you can manage, we'd love to have more people involved. So, and
to start with, I'll only be obviously in a support role anyway.
Yeah,
being an apprentice. So okay, I'll bear that. I can work my way through that one. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it's once you get the hang of it, it makes perfect sense. But it is a bit of a strange one to explain when you're not face to face with people.
Yeah, again, no problem. I used to manage people, which perhaps isn't a good idea, but I can be friendly.
Oh, that's good. Friendliness is the main thing, and then bird knowledge comes second. So.
I missed the very start because I had lots of technical problems. And hello, Gillian, as well as Amy. Hello. So yeah, because I work full time, I'm just wondering how often you'd be able to use somebody that could perhaps only do weekends.
Yeah, just whenever you're available. I think this year I'm going to make a stronger effort to get out more on the weekends and maybe do a bit more at different tides. But yeah, we'll as I say, just anything that you can do. So once the timetable goes out, you just let me know when you can do.
Because I know the rower and Woolney end of things
right.
as well. So yeah,
that would be great. We didn't have anyone last year from that side, unfortunately.
Yeah, I live in Lancaster, but I really like it over there. So
fantastic. Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Great. Any other questions? No? So as I say, if you want to get in touch, then drop me an email. I don't know if you can still see that on your screens, my email address, and then you can register your interest and I'll send you an application form. So just drop an email saying, yeah, I'd like to volunteer, and I'll zip you back an application form, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, incidentally, I really enjoyed the talk yesterday. He was.
Oh, good. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, this one's slightly shorter, but means you can get your tea earlier.
Yeah.
All right then. But yeah, if there's no more questions, Kirsty, if you wanted to watch the start of the presentation, if you missed it, I can send you a link. I've recorded it, so I'm happy to send you a link if you need it.
Oh, that would be brilliant. I've all but thrown my computer out the window today, so yeah, I did miss about the first 15 minutes. Yeah, thanks very much.
Amy, if you could also send me a link,
yeah,
it would be handy because there's quite a lot of pointers there. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I'll send it to everyone. I think if that's easiest. It'll be on our YouTube channel as well if you miss anything.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.
bye. Not that you can see me, but there you go. I can't see myself, so I'll be emailing you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. Bye.
Yeah, Kirsty. Bye.
Very much, Amy.
No problem, Margaret. Take care.